Hello, I'm Dr. Umar Rao, consultant pediatrician and adolescent health specialist. I'm practicing in Bangalore for the past 32 years, general pediatrics. I'm here to talk to you all about how to keep my family safe from COVID. So, all of us know that COVID has been with us for 1.5 years. If most of us know all the information about it, but I would like to highlight certain important aspects so that you can remember how to go about certain situations in the family which we keep coming across in our day-to-day lives. So COVID pandemic was declared as a pandemic by WHO in March 2020. Since then, our whole world is suffering from this problem. So we have to little bit understand the science behind the spread of COVID virus. So this important aspect we can understand, and we will be able to do our prevention methods based on this. So we have to really know that the virus is a very minute particle which is visible only through the electron microscope. So what happens is it spreads from the respiratory droplets of an infected person. Now this whole situation of the pandemic, we should consider it to be a bio war. So then we can understand that we have to fight this war. Each and every one of us is a COVID warrior. So we have to work in such a way that we are able to fight this virus. Each and every citizen of this world, not just the doctors, they will be the frontline workers, but each and every citizen has to be in a responsible way, behave so that is COVID appropriate behavior, so that we can contain the spread. So because the virus comes out through the nose and mouth, we use SMS. So that means social distancing, masking and hand sanitization to prevent the virus from coming out and spreading to other people. So that's why we are following the SMS. And also one more thing we have to understand is that 80% of the population who get COVID are asymptomatic, or they have very mild symptoms. They themselves will not know that they are carrying the virus in their body. So what happens? They move around in the society, they move around on the streets, they go to the shops, they go to the market, and there they spread it to the people who are around them through their breath, through coughing, sneezing, talking. Even talking causes a lot of droplets from the mouth which comes out and causes spread of the virus. So these 80% who are asymptomatic and mildly symptomatic are the main carriers of this virus. They are the ones who cause the spread of the COVID disease in the society. So we have to be very careful and consider each and every person you come across on the road or in the anywhere else where you go, to be even your neighbors or your own family, other than your immediate family or your relatives, to be potential COVID carriers. So when we understand these two aspects, then it becomes easy for us to go about the other aspects of preventing COVID disease by using SMS. So now let us consider a case story. Now Manoj and Sita have a child who is 6-year-old, and he has been invited to a birthday party in the neighborhood. So now you parents will worry whether you should send the child to the neighbor's house because you're worried that he may contact corona, and so how to handle this particular situation. So how will the parents handle? This is where all the various aspects of prevention which I talk to you now will come into play. Here, distancing, physical distancing, masking, sanitizing, vaccination, and all these different weapons which we call will come into play to tackle this particular situation. Many such situations will come to you in our you would have already experienced in the past 1.5 years in our day-to-day lives, where you will be worrying about your children in so many different situations. So now I'll handle the talk in 3 different ways. First, I'll talk to you all about how to protect the family and protect yourselves from COVID. Then I will talk to you about the symptoms which is present in children. And then lastly, I'll give you some more of these case stories which you can consider and think about and try to solve it yourself. So this is what I was telling you all about how to protect yourself by using physical distancing, masking and social distancing and sanitizing. See, here you can easily see in the slide what is the distance that the virus travels. The virus travels for a distance of 1 meter, not more than that. So if you are away from a person for more than 1 meter, the risk of getting the infection is very, very less. And also you have to wear a mask. And of course you have to keep washing your hands, because by touch also this disease can spread to a milder degree. And this is what I told you, that 80% of the people will be asymptomatic, 15% will have mild symptoms, or they'll have fever and they know they have some infection, so they will isolate. And it affects the older people more and it causes death. In children, it is always very mild. And now this is a very important slide in which it's called the Swiss cheese respiratory virus pandemic defense. That is, this virus is so very minute. No matter how many different things we do, the virus still will get through to us and infect us. You would have already understood this in our two different waves which we had. So the first one is our physical distancing and staying at home. That is the first layer. So this cheese has holes. So they have given an example of the cheese where the virus can travel through the holes in the cheese. Then the second slice of the cheese is the mask. That will also protect to some extent, but that is also not sufficient. Then hand hygiene and cough etiquette. We know that we have to cough into the elbow of our hands. That also will not protect. Then you have to avoid the proximity. So these are all the physical, personal responsibilities which we should have to prevent the disease. And then there are so many other layers, like once you get infected, the government comes to know, then they start messaging you and they try to help you by giving you financial support, and also they give you the vaccination. So all these different layers of the prevention aspect only will help you to protect yourself from coronavirus. So it's not very easy. We have to be very vigilant. Now let us talk about the first one, that is social distancing. Social distancing or physical distancing is a better word. Physical distancing from other people for more than 1 meter. So it's always better to be in the outdoors because there's a lot of air flowing, so the virus gets blown away. But if you're inside a room, then it's very dangerous. Especially if you're inside the room with more than 2-3 people, it's very dangerous. So location, proximity and time. These three are the different aspects of physical distancing. If you're outdoors, you're safe. If you're indoors, you're not safe. If you're maintaining a distance of more than 6 feet, you're safe. If you're in a crowd, it's very less safe. Time. That is, if you're more time you spend with in a crowd or with other people, you are less safe to get the disease. You will definitely get it. So you have to ask your employees whether you can work from home and avoid grocery shopping during peak hours, and don't come outside the house if you're sick, and keep in touch with your relatives telephonically or through video calls. Now this is the next slide, which shows you how about masking. Most of us know about masking by now. We have been trained from 1.5 years. I just want to highlight important aspects. The method of wearing a mask, you have to always hold the strings. Do not touch the front portion of the mask because the viruses will come and sit on that. And it should be a triple layer mask as far as possible. 3 layers. Cotton mask is fine. You can use 2 layers of cotton mask, and in between you can put a fabric sheet like a shopping bag sheet or inside, so that you get 3 layers, and you have to wash it every day, and you have to keep a distance of 6 feet. So this other photograph here about a blue shirt man and a yellow shirt man is very important. This is what I was telling you all along. If both of them are not wearing a mask and they are very close to each other, the blue shirt fellow is having asymptomatic COVID. So he doesn't know it. He doesn't know he's infected. So he's talking to his friend in the yellow shirt. 90% he will infect the yellow shirt fellow. And if the yellow shirt fellow who has no infection is wearing the mask, he will get it. Still he will get infected. 30% chance risk is there. If the infected person, blue shirt fellow, is wearing a mask, 5% chances of passing the infection to the yellow shirt fellow. Then if both are wearing a mask, it becomes just 1.5%. See how drastically it comes down. And if you also maintain a distance of 6 feet, you have a 0% risk of getting the infection. Isn't this wonderful? This is such a simple weapon. You don't have to use guns. You just have to use masks and maintain social distancing. This is the simplest thing which we can have, and we should definitely do it. And this slide is, of course, everyone knows, 20 seconds of hand washing or using a sanitizer if you don't have soap and water. Otherwise, soap and water is the best. 6 steps, we all know this process. So this has to be done because surface transmission risk is there slightly. Supposing an infected person touches the door handles and the bathroom flush handle, and if he touches the lift buttons, and if you go and touch, definitely your hands will get contaminated. So before you touch your face and nose, you should wash your hands. So as soon as you come from outside, please use hand washing. Now about the main weapon for us, which is about the vaccines. So we are all, most of us, I hope we are all vaccinated. We have all finished 2 doses, I think, by now. I definitely surely hope all those who are listening to this have already finished, adults finished 2 doses. So 2 weeks after the second dose, we are safe and we are protected from coronavirus disease. So why should we get vaccinated? Of course, even if you have suffered the disease, sometimes you can get the virus and then you are not 100% safe. So even if you have suffered the disease, you have to get yourself vaccinated because it prevents severe disease and it prevents death, and it builds immunity and protects us, and also it protects the whole society and whole country and the whole world. Why? Because of herd immunity. So herd immunity is very important. What is herd immunity? See, in this picture you can see so many black figures of people, population. They are all vaccinated, and the person who is in the red is not vaccinated. So in our case, we have all adults are vaccinated, and the red here will indicate a child. So if all the people around the child are vaccinated with 2 doses, definitely the child will not be able to get the infection because the virus cannot travel through so many vaccinated people and reach the unvaccinated person. So this is called as herd immunity. So that means you can definitely prevent the spread of the disease from one person to another, and you can create, finally it becomes the endemic. The disease will become, from epidemic it becomes endemic. Endemic means it will be there 1 or 2 cases here and there, like how we are seeing now, like dengue or malaria. So it will not totally vanish, but it will, very few people will be getting it, somewhere 1 or 2 people, and it will not spread from one person to another. And also fewer infection means chances of mutations are less. That means new variants will not emerge. Delta virus was a new mutant which caused havoc in the society and caused the second wave. We have all gone through that. So this type of mutations will not occur once there is herd immunity. So it's so important, isn't it? Not only for us but for the whole world. And also vaccines can be changed. They can be, in case there is a new variant, you can make it work against the new variant also. Scientists can do that. They can change a little bit of the vaccine structure so that it can protect us against the new variants. Now, should I consider my child to get vaccinated? Yes, definitely yes. We have to get our child vaccinated because even though in children the disease is very mild, it's not like in adults. It's not like, 10%, 15% will get severe disease, 5% go to ICU. For children, it's not like that. Almost 90% to 95% get very mild disease. But once in a way, a child can get a severe disease, and that is called as MSIC, that is multi-system inflammatory syndrome, and that can be a little dangerous for the child. So, and also it will prevent a reservoir of infection. Children may not suffer much, but they will carry the virus and spread it to adults and your older generation, grandparents. So that can cause a problem. So that's why, to avoid that, we have to get our children vaccinated. And if their children are having comorbidities, it's very important to vaccinate them immediately. And there are no side effects. And this is just to give you a picture about the different types of virus vaccines. Different type of vaccines. Virus vaccine, which is our Covaxin example. Viral vector vaccine is our Covishield. And then the nucleic vaccine, DNA and RNA, is a Pfizer vaccine which is being given in America and Europe. And then the protein based vaccine is our Zycovax D, which we are going to get in our near future. So this is the vaccine which are used in India. One is the Oxford AstraZeneca, which is our Covishield, and Bharat Biotech is our Covaxin. And this is the efficacy of the different vaccine. This is very important chart where there are almost 14 to 15 vaccines which are enlisted, and you will see that 100% of them prevent hospitalization and death. That is ICU admission, it will prevent 100%. That means even whether you get your Pfizer vaccine or whether you get your Sputnik, whether you get Covishield or Covaxin, you will 100% not land up in the ICU and you will not die if you have taken both the doses. Whereas what is the difference is that some vaccines will not prevent mild disease, like Covishield and Covaxin. They will not prevent mild infections. That means mild cold and mild throat pain. So that's okay. Even I got COVID positive after my 2 doses, but I got very mild fever for 2 days, and it was even very milder than the flu. I did not go to the hospital even though I'm a senior citizen. So that is the beauty of these vaccines. So we should get done any brand which is available. And now this is for in adults. What can happen? See the lungs. In a non-vaccinated person, the lungs will totally become hazy and the person may die. Whereas a vaccinated person, the virus doesn't even affect the lungs. And this bar diagram you can see, like I told you, if you don't take the vaccine, then the statistics is like I told you, 80% will have mild symptoms, 15% will have moderate, 5% will have severe disease, and 1% will die. But if you have taken the vaccine, you see that nobody is dying and the 5% ICU admission is also not there. So it is 90% mild and 10% mild disease. And what are the key facts about the vaccine is you have to get vaccinated even if you have suffered the disease. And COVID vaccine will not give you the disease. You will not get coronavirus disease by taking a vaccine. Definitely not. You might have got it already in the body, and after vaccination it will have surfaced. That's all. And even RT-PCR does not turn positive after taking the vaccine. So we should not worry about the problems with vaccine. Then after vaccination, what we have to do? Like I told you, even vaccine does not prevent mild disease. You may get mild cold and fever. So still you have to continue to use your COVID appropriate behavior, SMS, cover your masking and then staying 6 feet away, avoiding crowds, washing hands. We have to do because this mild infection you may not suffer, but you can transmit it to other people around you, and also you can transmit it to your children. And now let me talk to you about very quickly and very briefly. I will just tell you regarding the symptoms of COVID in children. So most of the common symptoms are fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste, and less common symptoms are sore throat and headache, and then they may have loose motions and vomiting and redness of the eyes. So if it is mild symptoms, 2 to 3 days we can give symptomatic medicines, and you have to consult the pediatrician telephonically or video consult. And if after the 3rd day the doctor may ask you to get the RT-PCR done, and if it is positive, then you have to isolate the child. But you have to please note that there are many other infections in the society, and not all fevers will be only COVID. It may be dengue, it may be malaria, it may be TB, it may be typhoid. And the main thing you have to look out for is warning signs. That is, if a child is having very high fever and if the child is breathing very rapidly, the doctors will tell you what is the breathing rate which you have to look out for. And if the child is very drowsy, not taking food properly, not passing urine properly, and vomiting severely more than 3 to 4 times a day, lose motions more than 3 to 4 times a day, then immediately you have to admit the child. So you should always be on a lookout for the danger signs. So it's better to always maintain a symptom diary. So symptom diary is that you keep a book or a paper where you write the date, that day's date, and every 6 hours you record the temperature and you record the respiratory rate and the pulse rate. So this way you can make out whether the child is very sick or not. And once the child is diagnosed of COVID positive, you have to isolate. So if it's an adult, you can definitely isolate in their room, and then you have to follow all the strict protocols, masking and sanitizing and maintaining social distancing. And you should not mix up the utensils from the sick person to the other people in the family. So you have to keep separate vessels for the person who is isolated. In the case of children, depends on the age group. Below 5 years, you cannot isolate them separately in a room. One of the parent will have to stay with the child even if the parent is COVID negative. You have to just follow masking and social distancing because you cannot isolate a young child separately. Sometimes even above 5 years it's difficult if the children don't cooperate. Up to 8 years sometimes the one parent will have to stay with the child. If it's an older child, you can make the child stay separately. Pulse oximeter is a useful instrument which all of us should keep in our house along with the thermometer. This is useful for children above 8 years. We cannot see the pulse oximeter reading in a young child. So in the young child, it is mainly the temperature, respiratory rate, heart rate that is to be monitored every 6 hours. And this is proning. I've just put up this diagram because in an older child we can use this. Every 30 minutes you have to keep changing the position as they've shown in the figure. This helps in improving the oxygen saturation in the blood, and the child will not get hypoxic and will not land up in the hospital. Now, when the children are isolated, or even if the adults are isolated, the children have to be kept busy. If the child is not very sick, you have to keep them busy by making them do simple exercises inside the house, by playing indoor games, painting, drawing, telling stories. Generally, you have to keep them occupied. Otherwise, they will get into stress and they will have mental issues, which is even more difficult in children to handle. And this is the foot plate, which is important to prevent severe disease and to prevent any infection, because it improves the immunity. This is a 9-inch plate where half the plate is full of vegetables and fruit. Quarter plate is full of made up of rice, rice or chapati, carbohydrates basically, and the other quarter is protein, that is your dal or pulses or non-veg or egg, and of course glass of milk and some fruits. So if this is given every day to the child, the immunity of the child will improve and it will be able to withstand any infection. And this COVID stress is so important in children, especially because they are not able to express themselves. So you have to take care of all the children at home. The parents have to spend a lot of time. How do you manage COVID stress in children? See, as they have told you, you have to keep talking to them, keep listening to them. You have to explain to them in simple terms what the disease is about. And if somebody in the house becomes positive, you should not panic. First of all, we should not panic. Otherwise, we'll transmit the panic to the child. And be calm and explain to the child what is the disease and it's just isolation, and after 14-15 days the parents will be outside the room. So you have to keep them entertained, keep them busy, and keep them ask them to do their various hobbies, and you can talk to them telephonically. In case the parents are admitted in the hospital also, you have to keep in touch with the child, keep communicating either by phone or by video chat. And this way we can prevent the stress in a child. Consider a newborn infant. Mother is COVID positive, father negative. How will you manage? Now, after having listened to my talk, I think more or less you should be able to understand what we have to do. A newborn infant has to be breastfed, so it cannot be separated from the mother even if the mother is positive. So we have to use mask for the mother, and she has to only breastfeed the child and give the baby to the father who is if he is negative, or any member of the family. So all other activities somebody else has to take over, but breastfeeding cannot be stopped. So certain things we have to change because we cannot be very strict in cases of newborn babies. Similarly, a toddler, 2-year-old child whose both parents are COVID positive, and if grandparents are negative, the child cannot be sent to the grandparents, because after 1 week the child can become positive and infect the grandparents and create trouble. Grandparents will get into trouble. So the one of the parent will have to stay with the child after following the masking and physical distancing to take care of the child, because the child cannot be left alone. Similarly, if a 7-year-old child is COVID positive and the parents are negative, again we cannot leave the child alone. If the child is cooperative, okay, but then you have to keep one parent with the child in the same room at a certain distance with masking. So these are the various case stories which you people can analyze, and there will be multiple such scenarios in the family where you will have to understand how to handle the situations. So now, to summarize, I would like to say that it is always good to understand the COVID appropriate behavior and follow SMS, that is physical distancing, masking and sanitizing. This is a discipline which we have to teach our children to follow, and we should also follow with zero tolerance and with proper discipline. This discipline we have to inculcate to keep us family safe, because in case there is a third wave, then all these things we have to again start following, and with a lot of planning is required and discipline is required mainly, so that we can be safe. And please vaccinate your children when the vaccines are available, because that is a main weapon to fight this disease, and we may even be able to eradicate this disease. And one more point is, this is not going to be the last pandemic. In future, hopefully not, but we cannot say. We can get different other viruses, or maybe even bacteria, or maybe there'll be so many other problems which the children may have to face when they grow up. So it's always good to inculcate these habits from childhood. And it has also been found that a lot of influenza cases have come down because of these COVID appropriate behaviors, lockdowns and masking. So a lot of different infections have also come down. So this has a positive effect in the overall health of the society and the family. And now I want you to please take a lot of, please see that we have to be informed. This last slide tells you about the helpline numbers and other websites. We have to be informed about the latest news about the COVID. Day to day you have to listen to the news and find out what is the positivity rate in your area, what is the positivity rate in your building, so that you can know how to manage your house and protect your family. Positivity rate is, if it is 1%, that means out of 100 people, one person is getting positive for COVID. So you will be able to understand how much of infection is around you. And for health information, you can contact your doctors, health facilities, keep emergency and hotline numbers ready. For support network, take help from family, friends, neighbors, school and work. National helpline numbers are 1075 and 1098 in case you need it. And there are many organizations, especially in Bangalore, like Parivartan and Tata Institute of Social Sciences. The helpline numbers are given below. And also a lot of websites are there where you can go and find out about the latest information about the COVID. The WHO website and the CDC website, UNICEF, and also our own government website. With this, I want to conclude my talk and thank you all for listening to it. I hope you have learned a lot from this and will be useful in your day-to-day practice. Thank you very much.